Well, here we go with another big move from Russia in Venezuela, as they have stated that they have now opened an attack helicopter training facility. Now, they go on via Reuters here and other outlets stating some of the details of this. One thing I find odd, though, is they want to put all this information out, but they say the location of this training facility is not being disclosed. Now, they had no problem telling us where this island was that they were going to use for refueling. They don't want to disclose this, but I know that there is satellite imagery, drones, and other technologies out there that is tracking everything around Venezuela right now. It's not the U.S. military that they're worried about then they would know that they're watching their every move from the skies. So they're keeping it hidden from the masses, is what it is. Because the military already knows where this is at. If there is a facility that is on the ground and there's helicopters taking off and flying and training and practicing, they're seeing it. And they're watching it. And they know exactly where it's at. You know, there's things you can do underground, but flying a helicopter around really isn't one of them. You'd have to have a massive, 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 massive cavern underground. And that would be a story all in itself. But outside of that, at this point, they've established an above-ground base where they're openly testing these things and training individuals. Now, they go on to say here that the United States has obviously said Moscow's got to get out. But Russia is saying that this has to do more with their relations with the companies that are inside Venezuela than any kind of military posturing. They're saying that during this, they're going to train Venezuelan pilots to fly Russian-made Mi-35M helicopter gunships, as well as Russian-made military transport helicopters. They're gearing them up for war. They're training them how to use their equipment that they're selling them. Oh, we're not doing nothing here. No. Well,
on Clover, there is no swiping. You just directly message the people you're interested in.
But I only want to talk to rich hot.
Just days after a high-level meeting in Rome last week, during which Russia reiterated a grave warning to the United States, saying that Moscow will not tolerate American military intervention to topple the Venezuelan government with whom it's allied, it appears that Russia is taking no chances with its South American ally. They're saying that after this meeting, the Russian officials are stating that they assume that Washington treats our priorities seriously and our warnings. They're saying that at this point, there's a red line that's been drawn in the sand for America in terms of this. And now we hear that aid is arriving in Venezuela. Russian troops. We already knew that there was a corps there to protect Maduro himself from assassination, any other attempts. And now Maduro is saying that Guaido has been trying to engineer just that. Assassination attempts on him, take him out, any of the key guys around him. But they seem to think that before you're going to see any type of shots fired or attacks on Maduro's regime, they would literally want to go for a decapitation strike and try to take him out the very first blow. Because once you do, if you miss, it could be a whole bunch of different things go down. And then, you know, if he's still in power running around and you've got Russian mercenaries and troops on the ground protecting him, you don't think if they try to bomb him, then that's not going to mean Russian troops aren't going to die? Sure they would, if they're around the area. As soon as that happens, we have a line that they're saying they just drew in the sand that is being crossed. All these proxy wars and mercenaries and all these things, but when it comes to what they call American troops, Russian troops, not mercenaries, but the troops themselves representing these countries, if American missiles are said to be responsible for killing Russian troops directly, you're talking about going right into the front lines of a war. And it's going to be this area. There won't be much talk of proxy to it, because you're going to have then straight up American and Russian militaries going at it in this area. And as soon as one Russian troop is killed or something like that, they could make an offensive move. They've already taken over an island off the shores of Venezuela specifically for refueling their bombers for long-range missions in the Americas. Now, what would that be for? They wouldn't be flying it down to Chile or the Patagonia. They would be flying up in our area to drop bombs, is what it would be, especially if their troops are getting killed. People just don't think it's possible. But yet you're sitting here watching the mounting up of just that. Mexico's not even allied with us in this whole thing. Now they're mounting up in Venezuela. So some of the latest information here, I wanted to share it with you guys. And in my last report on Venezuela, I was talking about how there were images being produced by several different individuals and journalists out there that are in Venezuela that were producing these images showing Russian military and a general showing up there. That has been confirmed. The general and like 99 other military troops, a few other personnel showed up. They're on the ground, and now they're saying, per these new satellite images, there are S-300 air defense missile systems stationed at a key air base south of Caracas. They're saying that an AN-124 transport plane had touched down Saturday carrying the general and all these troops. And now, ImageSat has published the imagery that you see here showing additional S-300 missiles deployed to the Captain Manuel Rios Air Base in Venezuela. So this is after Putin basically saying, look, we're putting our troops on the ground. We're drawing a red line in the sand, is how he called it. And he's saying that this is our ally. We dare Washington to try to do anything about it. And this shows right here that Russia is serious about militarily backing up Venezuela. Big time.
All right, shalawam. Call all Yahawah Ba Hasham Yahawashi, Ba Hasham, Qadash. Double honors to my elders and apostles of great millstone that do indeed rule well. Peace, blessings, and salutations be unto the elect, the 144,000, the house of David, and also the 1/3, men, women, and children, and confusion of face Israelites, whom Yahawah Ba Hasham Yahawashi will have mercy on in these last days and deliver up into the heavenly chariots. All right, this is Brother Thawadah from the GMS Detroit camp, coming at you with another video through the spirit and power of Yahawah Ba Hasham Yahawashi. And today, I want to touch in on this World War III news and prophecy. Okay, and we're going to go on a series of different articles that I found concerning the updates going on in Venezuela, because quickly Venezuela is becoming just like Syria. Okay, what did the United States do over there in the Middle East? False flag, they rolled on them, you know, to topple their government, which really it was all just, you know, get their oil. And what are they doing in Venezuela? Same thing, trying to topple their government, set up their own puppet leader, and take their oil. Okay? It says Venezuela won't become second Syria. Lavrov sure South America won't back military invasion versus Maduro. Tensions over Venezuela won't escalate into a new Caribbean crisis or turn the country into a second Syria. Russia's foreign minister Sergei Lavrov has assured, bashing the United States for treating the Western Hemisphere as its backyard. We don't accept the methods with which the United States is trying to improve the life of the Venezuelan people, Lavrov said in an interview with Moskovsky Komsomolets newspaper. You know, Salak if I'm butchering it. Washington has outright backed opposition leader Juan Guaido, who declared himself interim president of Venezuela in January. Let's hop down some to the point. It says, Lavrov pointed out that even those countries on the continent that oppose Maduro and want a snap election in Venezuela got really stressed out when the Americans mentioned the use of force. Okay, which what has Trump and Mike Pence and John Bolton, what have they been saying over the past month or so? They've said all options are on the table. So like you say, and they keep saying that. All options are on the table, all options are on the table. Why do they keep saying that? It says, I agree, Slovakia, I guarantee you that if there will be an attempt of a military intervention, the vast majority of Latin American states will outright reject it, he said. Despite the strong rhetoric from Washington, I don't think the Caribbean crisis will be recreated, Lavrov said, adding that there can also be no talk about a second Syria in Venezuela. Okay? And it says, Russia to keep deepening cooperation with Venezuelan military, state arms exporter. Right? The arms exporter. Now, like you saw from the video, it said that they have a new base, right, where they're landing helicopters. They also have deployed troops over there to Venezuela. They've also been sending humanitarian aid to Venezuela. So Russia, they're tied deep in this, man. They said that they drew a line within the sand. Okay, it says Russia on military planes in Venezuela. Our specialists are there based on cooperation treaty. Okay, because Venezuela and Russia, they're actually allies. Okay, they've sent their planes there. They're teaching the Venezuelan military how to operate their, I believe it was their helicopters. Okay, they have their planes landed there. They're training their military. Putin has already sent some troops over there. So if the United States were to roll on Venezuela, if they were to attack Venezuela or threaten the life of Maduro physically, okay, they'd be threatening Russia because their troops are in the same vicinity. Now, coupled with all of this, what else do you have? When you type in Venezuela on Google, okay, and you go down, okay, there's also articles, all right, speaking of China. Okay, speaking of China, let me see if I have it pulled up. HaRawchaa. Let's see. Well, that's another thing. Trump has also cut all aid to Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. And that was turned at the end of March. So this happened. And you also have Trump threatening to close down the U.S.-Mexico border. Okay, you have that going on as well. Let's see. And you also have Trump, okay, Donald J. Trump himself telling Russia to get out of Venezuela. And he says all options open once more. Okay? So these are more wars and rumors of wars brewing up. Okay? And I want to get the article that shows what China has. Let's see. Can't hear this. Yahawah Ba Hasham Yahawashi, Qadash. It says China refutes reports of sending troops to Venezuela to help Maduro. Okay, so they're saying that they haven't sent any troops, but they've actually sent humanitarian aid to Venezuela. Okay, they've been sending humanitarian aid. Here it is: a shipment of 65 tons of Chinese medicine reached Caracas, which Caracas is the capital of Venezuela, on Friday. Venezuelan Vice President Tarek El Aissami welcomed the aid flight and praised the important and strategic level of the partnership between Beijing and Caracas. Okay, so they received a shipment, okay, all right, of humanitarian aid from one of their allies. Okay, if it says that they deny that they haven't sent any troops over there and things like that, but who knows if they have actually done that or if they haven't. Okay. Because why would they outright just say that? Okay, but you have Russia. They openly said that they sent their troops there. Okay, and China is also a supporter of Maduro. All right, they're also allies. So you got China. They're sending humanitarian aid. You also got Russia. They're sending their aid and their troops. What else do you have? Let me show you this as well. Let's see. Now it says Mike Pence. All right, he's an American. All right, he's the vice president of Donald J. Trump. Mike Pence threatens, quote, strong action against Cuba, vows to keep pressure on Venezuela's Maduro. Now, what's his beef with Cuba? Okay, what's his beef with Cuba? It says Vice President Mike Pence issued a stern warning to Cuba on Tuesday, accusing the Caribbean nation of providing support to government, to the government of Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro. The White House will take, quote, strong action not only to isolate Venezuela, but also we are looking at strong action against Cuba, Pence said Tuesday. Okay. Cuba continues, quote, to provide personal and support to the dictatorship in Venezuela, the vice president alleged. He added that President Donald Trump is considering, quote, a broad range of options. Why do we keep seeing this word options getting circulated in the news over the past few months? What did Trump do before he shut down the government? He threatened it. Oh, I might just shut down the government. Hey, I might just do it. I might have to shut down the government. If no one's going to do this, I'm just going to shut down the government. Then what did he end up doing? He shut down the government. Right now they're saying, hey, all options are open. All options are open. We're considering all options. Okay? They don't want to take military intervention off the table. They've threatened military intervention. We've seen John Bolton's clipboard that said, I believe it was 5,000 troops to Colombia. Okay, which Colombia is an ally of the United States. They've seen that. All right? They've seen the subliminal threats. They've seen them continually say that all options were open. Okay? That military intervention was on the table. They weren't going to roll that out. Okay? They know that. So when all these nations come up and they try to support Maduro, you have to understand that the United States, they're not with that. Okay? And they're making enemies out of a whole lot of nations. Okay? Let's get some more. It says, China takes on United States over Venezuela after Russia says troops is not your backyard. Let's see if this will play. Okay, so this devil has his nose in a whole other country's business. It says China has defended Russia's recent deployment of troops to Venezuela amid the United States statements suggesting Moscow and Beijing, which is Russia and China, had no right to support a Latin American government disavowed by Washington. All right, so hey man. The United States, they think they can do whatever the hell they want. All right? Babylon really thinks that they can do what they want, and all these nations have to bow down. It says the United States has attempted to oust Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro by supporting opposition leader-controlled National Assembly head Juan Guaido. Okay? It says while Washington has secured support from a number of allies, Beijing and Moscow, China and Russia, were among those backing Maduro. Over the weekend, Russian troops were seen disembarking military aircraft at Caracas International Airport to attend what a diplomatic source has described as bilateral consultations, okay, to Russia's state-run Sputnik News. White House National Security Advisor John Bolton tweeted Monday that the United States, quote, will not tolerate hostile foreign military powers meddling within the Western Hemisphere. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo told Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov that Washington will, quote, will not stand idly by as Russia exacerbates tensions in Venezuela, according to the State Department. Okay, let's go into the word exasperates. Okay. Okay, it says exasperate, irritate and frustrate someone intensely. Okay, so they're saying that Russia, they're irritating the tensions in Venezuela. Okay, so you got more threats. You got Russia there, China sending their aid, Cuba's, they're all up in the mix. Okay, Trump is making a whole lot of enemies. It says, regarding the Venezuela issue, we want to stress that it can only be resolved by the Venezuelan people, and stability is in the interest of Venezuela and the region, Gang told reporters. China would like to work with the international community to help Venezuela restore stability at an early date. Meanwhile, we will continue to advance friendly and mutual beneficial cooperation with Latin American countries. Latin American affairs are not a certain country's exclusive business, nor is Latin America a certain country's backyard, he added. Okay? This is beautiful. Okay, these nations, all right, which that quote was from the Chinese foreign minister. Okay, his name is Gang Shuang. All right, and he had a lot to say about this situation. Okay, all we need is one false flag, one irritation, and then it's all out hell breaking loose. All hell's gonna break loose. Okay. It says Russia and China have defied these measures, however, continuing to engage with the Venezuelan government. As Moscow continues to deal in oil with Maduro's administration, Beijing has offered to fix the Southern American states' failing electricity grid, which Maduro has continually said was the Americans' fault. All right, that these rulers of America, they're the ones that were in charge of those blackouts over there in Venezuela. All right, which right now they're in a blackout and they're actually rationing power for 30 days. Since Maduro and his officials have accused Washington and Guaido of conspiring to cause recent blackouts made worse by fuel shortages caused by sanctions. Who's causing the sanctions? The United States. Okay, and actually Guaido actually stated that the blackouts wouldn't stop, that the darkness wouldn't stop until Maduro's out of office. Roughly paraphrasing. All right. So he's pretty much admitting that, he's in control of that, And that's pretty much the article. Now, let's see if I can find a little bit more. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see what this is talking about.
Venezuela's Margarita Island. According to a news agency, citing defense analyst photographs and local reports, more than 120 soldiers from the Chinese People's Liberation Army arrived at Venezuela's Margarita Island to deliver humanitarian and military supplies to the government forces. It doesn't appear last Friday's strong warning from National Security Advisor John Bolton for countries external to the Western Hemisphere to keep their militaries out of Venezuela had the intended effect.
See? So China, they sent their troops to personally deliver the humanitarian aid. Russia has deployed their troops and they're camped in Venezuela. They've even opened a helicopter landing spot. They also are teaching the Venezuelan military how to operate Russian aircrafts. Why are they doing this? Why are the allies of Venezuela doing this? Okay? They know that World War III is brewing up. Okay?
Brief ones. How is the search for a protecting power going?
We're very happy with the way it's going, and I wish I had an announcement. I don't, but the diplomatic efforts... Soon. The diplomatic is Friday. But the diplomatic efforts are going well.
Okay.
Bolton's and other White House statements saying, "Russia has to get out," came following Russian Air Force planes landing in Caracas with about 100 troops, which the Kremlin said were there as specialists, servicing existing defense equipment contracts. The military flight appears to have touched down on Sunday, 2 days after a prior Chinese cargo plane delivered 65 tons of medicine and other aid to Venezuela. The Chinese troops are also there ostensibly to assist with the humanitarian mission, but it appears Beijing is also now alongside the Russians pushing back against Washington ultimatums to stay out of Venezuela, after repeat.
Who's to say that those troops have ever even left Venezuela? Okay? Who knows if they, because Russia, they actually deployed their troops there, so they're pretty much staying there. Who knows with the Chinese people if they've deployed their troops as well, but they're just trying to keep it subliminal.
Repeatedly condemning any external coup plotting against President Nicolas Maduro. "We strongly caution actors external to the Western Hemisphere against deploying military assets to Venezuela, or elsewhere in the hemisphere."
But Russia, they're not listening to the United States, man. They're not listening to that. Russia doing whatever the hell they want. China's doing what they want, you know. And it's all brewing up. It's beautiful. Okay, the pot is coming to a boil. World War III is right around the corner. All right? If you can't tell, if you really think that we have another 10 years in Babylon, 5 years, you're in the wrong spirit. Okay?
With the intent of establishing or expanding military operations, Bolton had warned in his statement. The Maduro government has repeatedly blocked attempts of U.S. aid from entering the country. However, late last week the Red Cross announced it now has unhindered access to bring aid into the increasingly desperate country amidst medieval conditions, a failing power and water infrastructure.
Can you explain why, in the middle of this deep crisis with a lack of food, electricity, and medicines, the Venezuelan army is still behind Maduro's regime?
Well, it is troubling. I think part of it is fear.
Why did he say it's troubling? Because it's going against what the United States wants. Okay? They want their puppet by the name of Juan Guaido to be in office. That way they could easily control the oil. That way they can have their own puppet to do whatever the hell they want with.
There are several thousand Cuban intelligence officers permeating both the. But I think we have some evidence that this is being thought about a lot at the in the military. Because if you're in the military, you know, you have a brother and a sister, you have aunts and uncles.
Russia further remain the Latin American country's biggest arms suppliers, and Beijing had an additional $3.20 in direct investments in Venezuela in 2017, not to mention at least 3 joint ventures between China National Petroleum Corp and Venezuela's now U.S.-sanctioned state oil company, Petróleos de Venezuela S.A., or PDVSA. Given that Beijing is all too aware of the outcome to any Venezuelan.
And I believe the presence of the Foreign Minister of Chile today with us in his capacity as foreign.
All right. China sends 120 troops to Venezuela. All right, and those troops are sent personally to man guard that humanitarian aid. And we don't know if those troops are staying there or not. Okay. Now let's get a quick scripture. Okay, and we'll close on out. Matthew chapter 24 and verse 6. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines, and pestilences, and earthquakes in diverse places. All these things are the beginning of sorrows. Call on Yahawah Ba Hasham Yahawashi, Ba Hasham Qadash. That being said, shalawam.